Imagine you're trying to explain, like, the meaning of life in a language you barely speak.
Oh, that sounds terrifying.
Right, you have all these complex, beautiful, deep ideas swirling around in your head. You want to talk about art, or maybe a big business idea.
Yeah, the high level stuff.
Exactly. And you open your mouth to share this brilliant thought, and your brain just completely freezes.
You just panic.
Total panic. The words disappear. But what if I told you the master key to absolute fluency isn't in debating philosophy at all?
I'd say I'm intrigued.
Yeah. What if the secret to speaking English easily and naturally is hidden in the boring, completely ordinary sequence you use to brush your teeth every single morning?
It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it?
It really does.
But when we analyze the daily routines of ordinary people and pair that with the science of how we actually teach spoken English, we discover something amazing.
Right, because we spend so much of our lives on autopilot.
Exactly. We move from the bed to the bathroom to the kitchen, taking the exact same steps every single day.
And we never stop to think about the structure of those movements.
No, we don't. But that exact predictable structure is actually the most powerful tool you have for mastering a new language.
And that is exactly our mission for today's deep dive. We are going to take a magnifying glass to the most repetitive, mundane parts of your day.
The stuff you don't even notice you're doing.
Exactly. We have these incredibly detailed minute-by-minute schedules from 3 different people. Their names are Jesse, Tom, and Emily.
And we get to follow them literally from the exact moment their alarms go off.
Right, all the way to the moment they fall asleep. And we're also looking at this fascinating pedagogical guide on how everyday schedules are used to build complete fluency for beginners.
It's a really cool combination of sources.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can use routines to unlock our brains for learning, we have to look really closely at how we actually move through our mornings.
Yeah, we have to understand the blueprint first.
Yeah, there's a very specific sequence we all follow. Let's look at how the day begins for Jessie, for example.
So her alarm goes off at 6 a.m. every weekday.
6 a.m. is rough.
It is. And there's a very relatable detail here. She does not wake up that early because she wants to.
Oh no, it's strictly out of necessity.
Exactly. Her job demands it.
I think everyone listening right now knows that exact feeling. The alarm rings and you are just pulled out of a deep sleep by this external demand.
It's universally painful. Tom and Emily wake up a little bit later, around 7 a.m.
A bit more reasonable.
Yeah, but that reluctance to face the day, it's universal.
Completely. But what really stands out to me is what happens in the first, 3 minutes after that alarm goes off.
The zombie phase.
Yes. Jessie describes a sequence of movements that is almost robotic.
She gets out of bed, walks to the bathroom,
Brushes her teeth.
and then she washes her face.
Right. And she specifically notes that splashing water on her face is the moment she finally gets that awake feeling.
Let's look at why humans rely on that exact physical sequence. Wake up, get out, go, brush, wash.
Why do we all do it in that order?
Well, from a psychological perspective, when you first wake up, your cognitive load capacity, meaning your brain's ability to handle thinking, is completely empty.
Like a drained battery.
Exactly. You are transitioning from an unconscious state of sleep to being awake. Your brain literally cannot handle making complex decisions yet.
So no philosophy at 6 a.m.
Definitely no philosophy. So it falls back on automatic, ingrained physical habits. The shock of the cold water on the face isn't just about getting clean, it's a physical sensory trigger.
It tells the nervous system to shift into a new state.
Precisely. You don't have to think about how to brush your teeth, your hand just does it.
Right.
And that lack of mental effort is crucial.
So we're essentially walking around like zombies, relying on muscle memory because our brains haven't turned on yet.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So after the bathroom, the routine moves to the kitchen. And here we find a massive commonality among Jessie, Tom, and Emily.
The coffee connection.
The coffee connection. They all prioritize making a cup of coffee or a hot drink.
It's non-negotiable.
Totally. But what happens while the coffee is brewing is where it gets really interesting to me.
Yeah, this is a perfect example of how the modern world has changed a very old routine.
Because while waiting for that coffee to brew, Jessie reaches for her phone.
Of course she does.
She checks her text messages, she looks at her work emails, and she scrolls through social media for a few minutes.
And Tom and Emily report doing the exact same thing.
Right, they check their phones for news or messages while they wait for their morning drink.
Think about what this means, historically speaking.
Okay.
Waiting for water to boil or coffee to brew used to be a forced moment of doing nothing.
Right, you just had to stand in your kitchen and stare at the wall.
Exactly. And your brain had a few quiet minutes to slowly wake up.
But now,
Now, we have permanently filled that quiet space with digital information.
we insert the entire outside world into our brains before we've even had our first sip of coffee.
It's intense when you think about it that way.
It really is. We just cannot handle 2 minutes of doing nothing anymore. We have to be entertained or productive every single second.
We're totally wired into it.
It makes me think about the entire morning process like a computer's boot sequence.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, like when you turn on a laptop, it goes through this hidden checklist, loading the operating system before you could open any programs.
Getting everything ready to run.
Exactly. That is what our morning routine is. But I wonder, is making the coffee actually about needing the physical energy from the caffeine?
Or is it something else?
Yeah, or is the coffee just a psychological start button that gives us permission to finally begin the demands of the day?
For many people, it is absolutely the psychological start button.
Really? More than the caffeine?
Oh, definitely. The physical ritual, the smell of the beans, the warmth of the mug in your hands, the sound of the machine, all of those sensory details signal to your brain that the boot sequence is complete.
So it's like a transition point.
Exactly. Yes, the caffeine gives you energy later, but the ritual itself is the bridge.
A bridge to where?
It walks you out of the private, safe space of your home and prepares you for the public, demanding space of the outside world.
Wow. Which brings us to the final steps before leaving the house. Getting dressed and eating breakfast.
Right. And Jessie keeps this very functional.
Yeah, she wears simple, comfortable clothes for work, just pants and a shirt.
And her breakfast is basic, too. Toast with butter and jam, maybe some fruit.
Simple and quick. Then at 7 a.m., she leaves for a 30-minute bus ride, listening to a podcast.
Emily, on the other hand, eats a very healthy breakfast.
Yogurt with fruit and granola.
Right, and then she drives 15 minutes to work.
And Tom? He eats a heavier breakfast. Toast and eggs, and he drives for 25 minutes.
Notice the variations here.
Yeah, they're quite different.
We have the bus versus the car, the quick toast versus the cooked eggs, but the underlying structure is identical.
Nourishment, followed by transportation.
Precisely. The details change, but the bones of the routine are exactly the same.
So the morning boot sequence is complete. The alarm, the bathroom, the coffee, the phone, the food, and the commute are done.
The system is online.
It is online. Now the brain has to shift gears. The physical routine ends, and the core structured block of our day begins.
Work.
And this transition from the physical space to the mental space requires a completely different set of tools from our brains.
It's a major shift. Looking at the schedules, everyone arrives at work between 7:30 and 7:45 a.m.
Pretty early.
Yeah. And regardless of what their specific jobs are, the very first task, the first thing they do when they sit down at their desk is check their emails.
Always the emails.
And organize their tasks for the day.
And think about the massive shift in vocabulary here.
Oh, from a language perspective, it's huge.
Right. In the morning, all the actions were purely physical.
Right.
Brush, wash, make, dress, drive.
Very concrete words.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, suddenly, the verbs become abstract and organizational.
Check, organize, plan, start, prioritize.
The language of the workday requires a completely different mindset.
You are no longer managing your physical body.
You're managing information and time.
That is a huge cognitive leap. And the reality of this modern work environment is honestly pretty tough.
Yeah, Jessie says she works on her computer for many hours.
Tom and Emily say the exact same thing.
It is a shared reality of sitting and staring at a screen interrupted by constant online meetings.
Just reading about it feels exhausting, doesn't it?
It really does.
It is exhausting. Sitting still and looking at a screen requires sustained, intense focus.
And it drains you.
Very quickly. That kind of focus drains your mental energy. If you just did that for 8 hours straight, your brain would simply stop functioning properly.
You just crash.
Exactly. That is why the next phase of the workday is critical for human survival.
The lunch break.
Yes, lunch.
Jessie eats at exactly 12 p.m. noon. Tom and Emily eat around 1 p.m.
And there is a brilliant, highly practical habit they all share here.
Oh, bringing food from home.
Right. Sandwiches, salads, or leftovers from the dinner they cooked the night before.
They do this to save money and to eat healthier food than they would find at a restaurant.
Bringing leftovers is actually a fantastic, efficient loop.
How so?
Well, it connects the quiet evening routine from yesterday directly to the busy middle of today.
Oh, you are taking care of your future self.
Exactly.
But there is something else happening at lunch that seems much more important than just eating a salad to save $5.
the social aspect.
Right. Jessie specifically mentions eating with her coworkers.
She points out that they talk, that they laugh, and she explicitly calls it a nice break.
The data highlights this as a way to build friendships and make the workday actually enjoyable.
Which is so important.
Now, I have to be honest here. I want to push back on this a bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
We hear so much about the sad desk lunch culture today. You know, people sitting alone, eating a sandwich with one hand while typing emails with the other.
Trying to maximize productivity.
Exactly, trying to be as productive as possible. But these schedules actively focus on talking and laughing.
Yes, they do.
So is taking that time to just chat and socialize actually the glue that holds the entire day together?
If we look at human biology, we are fundamentally social creatures.
Right.
When someone chooses that sad desk lunch, they think they are being productive, but really they are denying their brain the cognitive rest it desperately needs.
They're staying in that high-stress mode.
Exactly. They are staying in that abstract, high-stress, high-focus state. But when you step away from the screen, when you sit down and laugh with a coworker about something silly, you physically shift your brain into a different gear.
You're lowering the stress.
Yes. You lower the cortisol levels, the stress hormones in your body.
Oh, wow.
And you build social bonds that signal to your brain, hey, I belong here, I'm safe.
So it's not just a nice bonus to have friends at work. It's almost a biological requirement to keep going.
Absolutely. That social interaction is the psychological anchor that makes returning to the computer in the afternoon sustainable.
Without that laugh, without that moment of human connection.
Sure. Burnout is almost guaranteed. You need the emotional fuel to get through the rest of the tasks.
That makes perfect sense. Because after lunch, they just have to, quote-unquote, continue working through the afternoon.
More emails, more meetings, more screen time.
Until finally, the wrap-up arrives. They finish work between 4:30 and 5:30 p.m.
The highly structured, demanding portion of the day is finally over.
And now we enter the third major phase, decompression and the evening wind down.
This part of the day is fascinating because it's entirely about shedding the stress of the office.
And transitioning back to your true self. Let's track the timeline here.
Okay.
They arrive home around 5 p.m., and there's a critical, immediate step that happens the moment they walk through the front door.
The goal is to just relax for a bit.
Exactly. Jessie sits on the sofa and watches a little TV.
Tom changes into comfortable clothes, sits down, and reads the news to disconnect.
And Emily puts on some music and just unwinds.
The common theme here is physical comfort and passive engagement.
Passive engagement, I like that.
Look at Tom changing out of his work clothes into comfortable clothes. That is a profound psychological signal.
What's he telling himself?
He is telling his brain, the performance is over. You don't have to be professional anymore. You are safe in your own territory.
The performance is over. I really like how you phrase that. It reminds me of an airlock on a spaceship.
An airlock?
Yeah. Imagine the workplace is a harsh, high-pressure planet.
Okay, I can see that.
And your home is the safe, peaceful spaceship.
Right.
Sitting on the sofa in comfortable clothes for 20 minutes is the airlock. You need that decompression zone to equalize the pressure.
That's a great visual.
Because you cannot just open the door from a high-pressure planet straight into the peaceful spaceship, or everything explodes.
That is exactly how the nervous system works.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you skip the airlock, if you rush straight from a high-stress workday into doing intense chores or managing difficult family issues without taking a moment to decompress, your brain never gets the signal to power down its threat detection systems. You stay in fight or flight mode all evening.
Oh, wow. So taking those 20 minutes to sit on the sofa isn't being lazy.
Not at all. It is active recovery. It is a biological necessity.
I am definitely going to tell myself it is active recovery the next time I am sitting on my sofa staring at the wall.
You should. It's true.
So once that airlock process is finished, the evening moves into dinner.
Right. Around 6 to 7 p.m., the focus shifts back to food.
Jessie really enjoys cooking. She treats it as a hobby and loves trying new recipes.
Tom and Emily like to cook too, but they balance it by ordering delivery sometimes when they are just too tired.
Which is very relatable.
Yeah.
And then comes the universal, unavoidable chore.
Washing the dishes.
Washing the dishes.
Which is actually a very important part of the mental wind down.
Wait, really? The dishes?
Yeah. It's a repetitive, mundane, physical task that requires almost zero mental effort.
That's true.
And because your hands are busy but your mind is free, it allows your brain to wander.
So it's like a secondary decompression.
Exactly. It is often during tasks like washing dishes or taking a shower that your brain silently processes all the complex information from the workday.
That makes a lot of sense. After the dishes are clean, we move into the connection phase of the evening.
This is when they spend time with family, watch a movie together, talk about their
Or
days.
maybe get some light exercise, like a walk around the neighborhood.
Right.
Now, I notice a very specific sequence here.
What's that?
Well, why do the hobbies, like Jesse's cooking and the dedicated family time, happen strictly after the decompression phase on the sofa?
Ah.
Like, why not walk in the door and immediately start playing with the kids or cooking a complex meal?
Because emotional presence requires cognitive availability.
Cognitive availability,
Yeah.
meaning you have to have the brain power ready.
Exactly. Even though cooking a fun recipe or talking with your family is enjoyable, it still requires active engagement.
You have to be present.
Right. If you are still carrying the stress and the mental weight of the office, you cannot truly connect with your family.
You'll just be distracted and irritable.
The sequence matters. Decompress first, so you have the mental energy to actually enjoy your personal life.
It's all about managing that internal battery.
Exactly.
And that leads right into the final wind down, bedtime prep.
They take a warm shower, they read a book for a little while, or listen to an audiobook.
And bedtime hits around 10:30 to 11 p.m. And all of them aim for a very specific goal,
Getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep.
which brings the entire daily system full circle.
It does. The 7 to 8 hour sleep goal is the foundation of everything we just talked about.
It really is.
The quality of your active recovery in the evening determines how well you sleep.
And how well you sleep determines exactly how painful that 6 a.m. alarm is going to be the next morning.
It is a deeply cyclical system.
It is an endless loop, a predictable, sometimes exhausting, but ultimately grounding loop.
We wake up, we boot up, we work, we decompress, we sleep, and we do it again.
Now, having established this universal human rhythm, the science reveals something truly extraordinary, a hidden layer to all of this.
This is where we shift from observing how people live to understanding how people learn.
Exactly. The pedagogical research we are looking at reveals a fascinating secondary purpose for all of these boring moments.
The brushing of teeth, the checking of emails, waiting for the bus.
Washing the dishes, all of it.
Mm.
These mundane actions are actually the absolute perfect foundational material for learning something incredibly complex.
Specifically, they are the master key to learning to speak a new language confidently. What's fascinating here is how this flips our normal understanding of education.
How so?
Well, when we think of learning English, we usually think of studying complex grammar rules in a textbook.
Right, or trying to read classic literature, or debating global news.
Exactly. But the pedagogical data argues that daily routines is the absolute core #1 topic for beginners to master.
Okay, I hear that, but frankly, I need to push back a little.
Go for it.
If I am putting in the effort to learn a new language, talking about my toast and my 30-minute commute sounds agonizingly boring.
I get that. It's not glamorous.
Right. If I'm learning English, I want to talk about my dreams, my career goals, my opinions on movies. Why start with something so uninspiring?
Because of the structure.
With structure.
Yes, your daily routine provides a massive built-in framework that your brain already understands perfectly.
Okay.
It is filled with the most common high-frequency verbs in the English language. Wake up, get dressed, take, go, make, have, finish.
That's true. We use those constantly.
And it is naturally organized by time expressions. At 6 a.m. in the afternoon before bed. It provides a reliable scaffolding.
Wait, so by using a story we already know inside and out, we are fixing that massive pain point where learners freeze up and forget their words.
Precisely. Think about it. When a learner is asked to speak about a complex topic, let's say their opinion on a movie, their brain is trying to do two incredibly difficult things at the exact same time.
What are they?
First, they are trying to formulate a complex, intelligent opinion. Second, they're trying to translate that opinion into a new language using perfect grammar.
Oh, that is a massive cognitive overload.
Exactly. The brain simply shuts down under the pressure. You freeze.
But if I ask you what time you wake up or how you make your coffee,
The cognitive load completely drops.
because I don't have to invent a story.
You don't have to defend an opinion. You already know what time you wake up. You know you put sugar in your coffee.
The what is completely automatic and factual.
Therefore, 100% of your brain power can be redirected toward the how.
Oh, I see. You can focus entirely on the vocabulary, the pronunciation, and the rhythm of the new language.
Exactly. It's a brilliant psychological trick.
You completely remove the burden of inventing the story, so the brain has the energy to practice the actual words.
And the teaching methods stress a very specific way to practice those words.
Right, the guide talks about this. They strongly advocate for learning natural spoken chunks rather than memorizing isolated vocabulary words.
Chunks are arguably the most critical concept in modern language acquisition.
Can you explain chunks for the listeners?
Sure. In traditional school, you might learn the word take and the word g and the word bus.
Separate flashcards.
Right. And when it is time to speak, your brain tries to assemble those separate pieces together like a mathematical equation, checking the grammar rules as you go.
Which is really slow and unnatural.
But if you learn the entire phrase, take the bus, as one single unit of meaning, a chunk, you bypass the grammar math entirely.
The research gives great examples of these conversational chunks. Phrases like, the simple way to think about it is.
Or, what that means in real life is.
These aren't just lists of words. They're completely prepackaged tools. You just grab the whole phrase and use it.
Exactly. And once you master the vocabulary of your daily routine using these chunks, you are building a durable, flexible structure in your brain.
So it scales up.
Yes. Once you are comfortable easily saying, I check my emails because it helps me organize my day, you have mastered a pattern.
And then later on, when you do want to talk about business or art,
you use that exact same pattern. You just swap out the simple vocabulary for more complex vocabulary.
the daily routine is just the safe training ground.
Exactly.
It's like a musician. A concert pianist does not sit down on their first day and try to play a complex Beethoven symphony.
No, they'd be overwhelmed.
They start by playing basic scales, up and down the keys, over and over, plucking the same notes.
It is repetitive. It feels boring.
But practicing those basic scales builds the physical muscle memory and the structural understanding of the piano. Once the scales are automatic, then they can compose a symphony.
That is the perfect analogy. Your daily routine is your linguistic scale.
Okay, so my morning coffee is my C major scale. I love that.
Yeah.
It completely changes how I view my boring commute.
It really does.
So if we know what to talk about to build this foundation, how do we actually practice it to achieve real fluency? The pedagogical guide provides some very specific strategies.
It provides a very clear step-by-step methodology, and the very first technique it highlights for pronunciation is called shadowing.
Shadowing. It sounds like a spy technique.
It kind of does.
The guide explains it as listening to a native speaker, for example, listening to an audio clip of Jessie talking about her morning,
Right.
and immediately repeating the sentences aloud a split second after she says them. You are casting a vocal shadow of her words.
Shadowing is incredibly effective because, again, it bypasses the analytical, grammar-obsessed part of your brain.
You're not thinking, you're just doing.
Exactly. When you shadow, you aren't stopping to analyze if a verb is past tense or present tense.
You are simply mimicking the melody, the intonation, and the physical mouth movements of the speaker.
You are training the physical muscles of your jaw and tongue to produce English sounds naturally without overthinking.
And speaking of sounds, there is a massive relief for learners in this guide regarding pronunciation.
Oh, this is a big one.
The experts clearly state that the goal of speaking should be clarity and comfort, and that learners should completely abandon the unrealistic, stressful goal of achieving accent perfection.
The pursuit of a perfect, native-like accent is one of the biggest barriers to fluency.
It just creates immense anxiety.
People are terrified to speak because they think they don't sound like they were born in London or New York.
Right.
The guide correctly shifts the focus. Your goal is simply to be easily understood by the person listening to you. Clarity is the objective.
An accent just tells the story of where you came from. It is not a mistake to be fixed.
Beautifully said.
You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be clear. That removes so much pressure.
It really frees you up to just practice.
Yeah, the guide also focuses heavily on a practical skill called upgrading weak language.
This is a great tool.
It takes basic hesitant sentences that a beginner might say and shows how to transform them into strong, natural chunks.
For example, it takes the very weak, short sentence, I like daily routines.
And it upgrades it too. I like daily routines because it makes daily decisions clearer.
Notice the mechanics of that upgrade. The guide did not add incredibly complex academic vocabulary.
No, it didn't.
It simply added a reason. It added the word because, which expands the chunk and makes the thought feel complete, mature, and natural.
Here's another one. A learner might feel frustrated and say a weak sentence like, this topic is difficult.
Very common.
The upgraded fluent version is, This topic feels difficult at first, but it becomes easier when you explain it with simple examples.
That is a phenomenal upgrade.
It really is.
It gives the learner a highly sophisticated conversational structure, acknowledging a difficulty and then offering a resolution.
It feels difficult at first, but it becomes easier when.
That is a framework you can use in 100 different conversations, and it uses entirely accessible, simple words.
Fluency isn't about using big words. It's about combining simple elements smoothly.
Exactly.
Let's actually demonstrate how this works in real life.
Yeah.
I want to do a quick mini role play.
Okay, let's do it.
I will play the language learner, and I will try to explain my morning routine poorly using weak language.
And I'll play the teacher and help you upgrade it using chunks.
That sounds good. Okay, I wake up. It's 7 o'clock. I drink coffee. I know like mornings. I go to work. It is far.
Okay. That is a great start because you communicated all the essential facts. I understood your story perfectly.
Right, the basics are there.
Now, let's connect those separate ideas to make them flow smoothly using simple chunks.
Okay.
Instead of saying, I wake up, it's 7 o'clock, let's combine it with a time chunk. Try saying, I usually wake up around 7 o'clock.
I usually wake up around 7 o'clock.
Perfect. Now, instead of the weak phrase, I know like mornings, let's use a very natural English chunk we heard earlier.
Okay.
Try, I'm not a morning person, but I always make coffee first thing.
I'm not a morning person, but I always make coffee first thing.
Oh, I like how that feels to say. It has a nice rhythm to it.
Exactly. You are feeling the rhythm of the chunk. Finally, instead of I go to work, it is let's add a conversational connector.
Okay, what's that?
Try. After that, I drive to work, which takes about an hour. After that, I drive to work, which takes about an hour. Wow. If I put that all together without stopping.
Let's hear it.
I usually wake up around 7 o'clock. I'm not a morning person, but I always make coffee first thing. After that, I drive to work, which takes about an hour.
See?
That doesn't sound like a beginner at all. That sounds like a real fluent person just chatting at a coffee shop.
Because you are no longer building sentences word by word like a math equation.
Yeah.
You are speaking in natural blocks of thought.
To help learners actually practice this and lock it into their memory, the pedagogical research lays out a specific 7-day speaking challenge.
This is such a great framework.
It is a week-long progression designed to take a learner from just listening all the way to fully speaking.
Yep.
I want to walk through this challenge day by day because the psychology behind it is brilliant.
Spreading the challenge over 7 days is key. It manages the cognitive load, allowing the brain time to process and sleep between new steps.
Day 1 is very simple. Listen for meaning. You just listen to a story about a routine, like Jesse's morning, and focus on understanding the general picture.
You do not worry about translating every single word. Just understand the flow.
Day 2. Write down 8 useful chunks. You actually get a pen and paper and write down phrases you liked, such as relax for a bit or make a cup of coffee.
Writing them down physically is important. It moves the information from passive listening to active recognition in the brain.
Day 3. Shadow those lines aloud. This is where you practice the physical rhythm and mouth movements we talked about earlier.
Right, casting that vocal shadow.
Day 4 is where the safety net disappears. Talk about the topic without notes for 2 minutes.
You just stand in your room and speak about your own routine, trying to use the chunks you wrote down.
This step forces the brain to practice retrieval. You are training your mind to find the words on its own.
Yes.
But then we hit day 5, and I have to be honest, this step sounds awful.
Day 5, yes.
Day 5 asks the learner to record their own voice on their phone while speaking, and then listen back to notice where they hesitate or make mistakes.
It's tough.
Listening to a recording of your own voice is universally terrifying. Everyone hates how they sound. Is this deeply uncomfortable step actually necessary for fluency?
It is absolutely necessary, and it is completely normal to hate it. Listening to yourself is always awkward.
So why do we have to do it?
Here is the neurological reason. It is the final, crucial hurdle to true fluency. When you are speaking in real time, your brain is working so hard to generate the words that you literally cannot accurately hear your own mistakes.
Oh, that makes sense.
You don't realize how often you say, or how long you pause before saying breakfast. When you record it and listen back objectively, you become your own teacher.
You hear what everyone else hears.
Exactly. You build profound self-awareness. And as the guide beautifully states, confidence grows after repeated use, not before.
Confidence grows after repeated use, not before. I need to write that on a sticky note and put it on my mirror.
It's a powerful quote.
We always want to feel confident before we start a difficult task.
Right.
But the confidence is the reward for doing the uncomfortable work, not the requirement to start.
Exactly. You have to push through the discomfort of hearing your own voice to build the awareness that creates confidence.
Finishing up the week, day 6 asks you to retell your routine again, but this time in simpler English, intentionally trying to smooth out the hesitations you noticed on your recording.
Applying what you learned.
And finally, day 7. Hold a mini conversation with yourself in the mirror or with a friend, using the chunks you have mastered all week.
By the time you reach day 7, you have completely dismantled the anxiety.
You really have.
You have practiced the vocabulary, you have trained the physical rhythm of your mouth, you have faced the fear of your own voice, and you have re-engineered your brain's response to speaking English.
You have taken a completely boring, ordinary sequence, like washing your face and waiting for the bus, and used it to literally rewire your linguistic capabilities.
It's pretty amazing.
We have covered some incredible ground today. We started by forensically breaking down a mundane Tuesday morning.
We looked at why the brain relies on automatic physical verbs when the 6 a.m. alarm rings.
We explored how the modern smartphone has invaded our quiet coffee rituals. We examined how the abstract demands of the workday drain our cognitive battery, and why laughing with a coworker at lunch is a biological necessity, not just a break.
We analyzed the vital importance of the evening airlock on the sofa to power down our stress before we connect with our families.
We revealed the shared human experience that connects us all.
But more importantly, we discovered how that very predictability provides the exact stress-free script you need to master communication.
It really changes how you look at a normal day. Think about your own life right now.
Yeah, the next time you are standing at the bathroom sink brushing your teeth.
Or waiting for your kettle to boil. Or washing a dinner plate. Remember that you aren't just killing time.
No, you're not.
You are standing right in the middle of a perfect, ready-made language laboratory. All the structural materials you need to become confident and fluent are already built into your daily life.
You just have to use them. The foundation is already there. You just have to start building.
If you enjoyed this journey into the architecture of our days and how it helps us learn English, please subscribe to English on Mic and leave a like. We want to bring you more simple, clear conversations that help you learn, grow, and see the ordinary world in a completely extraordinary way.
We are always happy to help you on your learning journey.
To leave you with something to ponder today, I want to pose a final question based on everything we have uncovered about our schedules.
Okay.
If you had to describe your personal daily routine to a complete stranger, using only the simplest English words possible, what would that bare-bones description reveal about what you truly value in life? Think about it. We will see you next time.